me, I'm very left-wing. I'm super liberal, as both of my parents. And in terms of this year's election, I think that this rhetoric surrounding the political candidates as the lesser of two evils is really dangerous, especially considering that Donald Trump is misogynistic and racist and all of these things. I think it's both inaccurate and unfair to compare him to Hillary Clinton in the same type of way. I also think that a lot of our ideas surrounding Hillary Clinton is in her, number one example is this dishonesty that we associate her with. I think that a lot of that wouldn't be the case if she was a male. So I think that that's an important part of this election, this idea of how gender dynamics are playing into it. But yeah, I'm voting for Hillary Clinton. Everyone else should too.
But let me say this, that one of my major issues is clean energy and the environment. And so, and just looking at that particular issue, I see a very strong contrast between the two major candidates.
Well, Donald Trump's an idiot, and that's the facts, right? And he makes things up. So the statistic that he uses one statistic to describe, unemployment, African American unemployment. That statistic is wrong. I mean, yes, African American unemployment is high. It's 9 or 10%, but it's not like the 58% number that he quoted. And trust me, there are problems in the African American community, but we don't solve them by demagoguery. We solve them by trying to find workable and meaningful solutions to the problems. We solve them by making investments. We solve them by building roads and bridges and schools and funding public education. That's how we solve them. None of his solutions say anything to that. He just keeps saying, we're gonna build all these things and we're gonna make America great again, but he doesn't tell you how they're gonna make America great again whatsoever. I'm a Democrat. I've been a lifelong Democrat, but the reason why I support the party is because I think we have to be building bridges and not walls, number one. And number two, we've really got to we have got to have a poverty agenda in this country. If we want to truly keep America as the world's largest economy, we have to have a poverty agenda.
So in my mind, the problem with Clinton is that she has created this perception of lack of transparency. So there's a lot of things that she doesn't like to discuss her personal, she's just not very transparent. She's very susceptible to corruption, at least that's what people say. It's not true, but because of the lack of transparency, the lack of realism that Clinton gives, that she's not very empathetic or charismatic person, a lot of people who listen to right-winged media outlets in America have a perception that Clinton is a liar, that she's corrupt, and that she is bought over by large interests.
I think there's areas where he can grow a little bit, but I think what I've seen from around him, the appointment of Mike Pence, the Supreme Court justices, the willing to defund Planned Parenthood, wanting to reduce government regulations, all those stuff are conservative policies. And so there's a lot that conservatives should be really excited about with regards to Donald Trump and his conservative platform. But I think there's some areas we can continue to work with him on. And the great thing I've noticed about Donald Trump is he seems very open to working with conservatives to making sure that his policies are more conservative.
Well, in my personal opinion, I think a lot of people have started voting for him that aren't necessarily typical adherents of the Republican Party. He's reaching out to a demographic of people who feel disenfranchised and feel like the Democrats don't care or think that they're dumb, basically, because Democrats will say, these people in the country who don't know what they're talking about and are xenophobic and racist and that sort of thing. And they also feel like the Republican Party sometimes has kind of forgotten them. So he's appealing to people because he's an outsider, he's not entrenched in this system. And I think that's a lot of his appeal. I think this is a thing also we've seen trending in lots of other countries, like a lot of far right or populist candidates have been elected in a lot of European countries, and the Brexit decision is similar. So I think that's a reason we see a lot of this going on.
Who will you be voting for in the presidential election?
I will be voting for Gary Johnson, who's the Libertarian candidate. Again, not part of this campaign, just part of the College Republicans. They were nice enough to have us here. But yeah, because I'm also, like I said earlier, I'm from Connecticut, which is a northern state. It's very liberal. It's going to go to the Democrats no matter what. So I think the most important thing is getting more ideas out there and getting more people to be heard on that stage.
So for the national level, they've adopted a policy of each state's going to decide best because they know what their people are like. And so we've received no national directive to either endorse Donald Trump or to not endorse Donald Trump. And so they've left it up to the states and the chapters to decide, which has positioned us to be in a position where we've maintained our membership. We're actually increasing it. We're increasing the number of chapters from 10 to 13, and we're actually keeping people involved and engaged in the process. A lot of our people realize and recognize that there are races that are bigger than the presidency that affect them, their lives more on a regular basis. And so they're committed to winning those. They're committed to going out and sweating if they have to and do whatever they need to in order to make sure that they can keep those races. And Donald Trump, for the majority of those, is a non-factor for our members.
A great question. Honestly, no. He was not my first person to be on the ballot. I think nominee as well, like overall the Republican nominee, I don't know. I think there were many well-qualified individuals, and I don't want to say I was disappointed in Trump, but I was definitely kind of like, come on, America, like really, So, yeah, I think that there was other candidates that I could have better aligned myself behind, especially just because there was such a broad qualified field. So for us to really decide on Donald Trump, it was maybe a little bit of a letdown. So I would say that, yeah, I kind of am compromising on that a little bit. But like I said, when we're looking at the broader picture, the bigger picture, he is the one that is going to best represent the values and the beliefs that I stand for. And so that's why I can feel comfortable voting for him in the end.
Yeah, and Donald Trump was not my first choice as the Republican nominee, but as a conservative, I am willing to stand behind Donald Trump. For the reasons of the fact that I do believe that he will be a great president, and I do believe that he is surrounding himself with the right kind of people that he needs in order to hold himself accountable and also hold the American people accountable. And I think when you look at Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump being our nominees, you need to look at society as a whole. And our candidates are exactly what our society has asked for.